You ever stop and wonder what's really going on inside your head when you pick coffee over tea or, one brand of cereal over another? Well, it turns out there's this hidden force behind every single one of those choices, and economists have a name for it: utility. And today we're going to pull back the curtain and see exactly what that is.
All right, so here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we'll nail down what economic utility actually is. Then, we'll see how it acts as the engine for our choices. We'll look at the less is more rule, see how this all works in the real world, and wrap up by asking a pretty deep question. Can you really measure happiness?
Okay, let's make this real. Pizza or tacos? Coffee or tea? It feels like a simple preference, right? A whim, but it's not. Behind that choice, your brain is running this incredibly fast calculation to figure out which one is going to give you the most, goodness. And that calculation is exactly what we're going to break down today.
All right, so let's get right into the thick of it. What is this thing, this utility that's behind all our decisions?
Okay, so there it is, the official textbook definition: a scalar representation of subjective well-being. I know, that sounds super academic and a little dense. So let's just translate that into plain English, shall we?
Really, all it is a word for the satisfaction, the happiness, the benefit, or the enjoyment you get from something. It's the feeling of a want being fulfilled. Think of it as the goodness score you get from making a particular choice.
And here's the key thing. Utility isn't just some passive score you keep in your head. No, it's the engine. It's the active force that's actually powering your decisions and pushing you to choose one thing instead of another.
And this quote, it really gets to the heart of the matter. We live in a world of scarcity, right? We can't have everything we want all the time. So what do? We're constantly forced to make choices, to rank our preferences, all in an effort to squeeze out the most possible satisfaction, the most utility from our limited resources.
So, economists have a name for this whole thing: the rational choice process. And look, it sounds fancy, but it's something you do 1,000 times a day without even thinking about it. Step 1, you figure out your preferences. I'm feeling tacos more than pizza right now. Step 2, you look at your constraints. Okay, I've only got $10. And step 3, you optimize. You pick the tacos because given your options, that's what's going to make you the happiest. Boom, rational choice. Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. There's this quirk in how utility works. It's a fundamental law of economics, but I promise you, it's something you already know deep down, just from, being alive.
It's called the principle of diminishing marginal utility. Now, that is a mouthful, I'll give you that, but the idea behind it is super simple. The more you have of something, the less extra satisfaction you get from each additional one.
Let's stick with pizza. Imagine you're starving. That first slice? Oh man, it's pure bliss, right? Let's give it a satisfaction score of, say, 10. Now the second slice. It's still really good, but is it as amazing as the first? Nah, maybe it's a 6. By the time you get to the third slice, you're starting to feel full. The enjoyment you get from it drops way down. Maybe it's just a 2. That is diminishing marginal utility in action.
So, this isn't just some neat psychological trick about why you get tired of pizza. This concept of utility is a foundational tool. It's something economists use to understand how the entire economy works from the ground up.
This is a seriously powerful instrument. They use it to build models of how we as consumers make our choices, and those models help them figure out everything from how prices are formed to how we can analyze social welfare. It's the bedrock for all those things you might remember, like demand curves and indifference curves from your first econ class.
And to make all of this stuff predictable, they formalize it with a tool called a utility function. Don't let the name scare you. It's just a mathematical way of mapping out your preferences. A streaming service might use a version of this to figure out if you're going to get more utility, more enjoyment from them greenlighting a new blockbuster or a binge-worthy TV series. It helps them decide where to sink millions of dollars.
And this all leads us to what is maybe the biggest, most mind-bending challenge in this whole theory. If all our choices are about maximizing some kind of internal score, can we actually measure something as personal and, subjective as happiness?
Well, economists have basically 2 ways of looking at this. First, there's what's called ordinal utility. This one's pretty straightforward. It just ranks your preferences. All it says is, I like coffee more than I like tea. Simple ordering. But then you have cardinal utility, which gets a lot more ambitious. It tries to put a hard number on it, saying, coffee gives me 10 points of happiness, but tea only gives me 7.
Now, to make that kind of scoring even remotely possible, economists invented a clever, well, kind of weird concept, a hypothetical unit of happiness called a util. Let's be clear, you can't go to the store and buy a util. It's not a real thing. It's just a theoretical placeholder, an idea that lets them do the math and compare the welfare people get from different things.
And that brings us right back around to where we started, to that big final question. We've seen how utility is the engine driving our choices, and that it even follows predictable rules. But if it all just boils down to us trying to get the highest score, what does that really say about satisfaction itself? Can we ever truly put a number on happiness? And maybe more importantly, should we even try? It's definitely something to think about.